A couple of weeks ago here on the channel, we talked about Baldur's Gate 3. We didn't talk specifically in regards to the hype and the anticipation in regards to the upcoming release of the game, but actually what it meant for the future of the RPG genre. And it was actually a lot of developers, many within this AAA games industry, pushing back on the possibility of this setting a new standard for the RPG genre. We had one developer calling it Rockstar level nonsense for scope. It all began with this thread from an indie developer who said, "Like a lot of people, I'm deeply excited about what the lovely folks at Larian accomplished with Baldur's Gate 3, but I want to gently preemptively push back against players taking that excitement and using it to apply criticism or erase standard RPGs going forward. This is not a new baseline for RPGs. This is an anomaly." And what was interesting was that this thread specifically got a lot of reactions, a lot of support from many of your favorite developers. We actually had Josh Sawyer, director at Obsidian Entertainment, most recently worked on Pentiment. Years ago, he worked on Fallout New Vegas, giving his support behind this thread. And we also saw developers from CD Projekt Red, BioWare, Obsidian, Criterion, Ubisoft, Hangar 13, Riot, Rockstar, Epic Games, Guerrilla Games, Focus Entertainment, Eidos Montreal, Bungie, Bethesda, Sony, Xbox, so on and so forth, and Insomniac, another one. It's just ridiculous the amount of developers that came out in support of this position. And while Baldur's Gate 3, as I have played a couple of hours of it now, it's not necessarily innovating too much on the RPG genre, but what it's doing is it's over-delivering for players. It's something that we really haven't seen with RPGs the last couple of years, at least on this scale. In terms of choices, consequences, customization, different build potential, all the various game systems that are here, the dice rolling, the D&D, DNA, Baldur's Gate 3 is special. And when I look at this AAA games industry, it really just shows kind of how a lot of developers, especially a lot of these studios which have these massive budgets, they're spending hundreds of millions of dollars, I don't think they're really understanding what a lot of players want nowadays in terms of games. It's not about those beautiful 4K graphics, it's about giving players replayability, giving players something that is very unique. And yes, Baldur's Gate 3 is very unique. It reminds me of those early 2000s to mid 2000s BioWare games, Dragon Age Origins, Mass Effect 1, Mass Effect 2, Jade Empire, those original Baldur's Gate games. It really is impressive what Larian has done here, and it's really the key to their success, I think, is listening to what their community wanted. And yes, the early access certainly has helped them, but right now it's remarkable seeing the celebration that we're having surrounding this game. It reminds me very much of last year with From Software, in which a lot of people were like, yeah, From Software understands what players want. And I think you can parallel a lot about their success with Larian, because in many ways they're not doing anything too crazy, but they're delivering what players want. And I think that's something that a lot of developers, a lot of your favorite studios definitely need to start listening to. But right now, Baldur's Gate 3 is blowing up. As this VG247 article says, Baldur's Gate 3, a single-player RPG with no microtransactions, is beating just about every game on Steam. And yeah, on Steam charts, has about 700,000 concurrent players that peaked yesterday, but right now it's already up to around 600,000, and I think it's like 9 or 10 in the morning here in the US, so that very much could end up being around 800 or 900 later on today. And I think it's because a lot of people were just dying for an RPG like this. And we've heard from other developers, from CD Projekt Red and even BioWare. They've talked about the difficulties of making cinematic RPGs work nowadays, but we look at a studio like Larian and, well, it's just impressive what they're doing here. And remember, I don't even know if you declare them a AAA studio, but they most definitely are delivering a AAA product. Now, we did see other people like, look at this. It's just ridiculous the amount of things that you can do in this game. This is just one example. For a seasoned D&D professional, stacking 45 crates to vault over a castle's ramparts is an obvious solution. That's just really cool. I just love the fact that there's so many different things that you can do in this game. We had another person tweeting out one of the reviews on Steam: beat a woman to death with a mace so I could steal her valuables, used a revive scroll, and then gaslit her into thinking I was the hero who saved her life, so now she is indebted to me. That's just, I love the freedom, I love the possibilities that this game offers. Now, what's also very interesting is Larian's position in terms of being pro-consumer, because a lot of people are giving attention to their what they've said about microtransactions, and also the company's CEO. We'll actually start there. Sven Vink. He did an interview with PC Gamer about acquisitions and the possibility of Microsoft buying them out. And this is what he said. He said, in a chat with Bloomberg, he responded to a question about a 2021 internal Microsoft list of potential acquisitions that circulated back in June this year when the whole Activision Blizzard trial with the FTC was going on. On that list, it also included Sega and Bungie, but it also had Larian. And he told Bloomberg that while it was always flattering to catch the eyes of parties like Microsoft, he's not at all tempted to sell the company just yet. I'm getting older, but I'm certainly not done yet. He worried that a monolithic corporate owner like Microsoft could end up limiting the studio creatively in the pursuit of profit, which it does feel like when you look at certain studios, especially like the likes of BioWare, they ended up chasing the cash and it really ruined that studio. But Vink reckons Larian's advantage is that the final authority rests with him, not a distant corporate overlord, and he's very invested in the gameplay of the studio's projects. We can do things in service of the games we're making, said the CEO, rather than pursuing a project management style that prioritizes efficiency and profit above all else. You don't hear that from company CEOs nowadays. I mean, you can also look back to just 4 years ago. There's this video right here in which he's talking about Baldur's Gate 3. I think it's behind the scenes of the game's development. And I mean, he's dressing up for the part. It's remarkable seeing a company CEO so creatively involved in a game. We'll watch it quickly.
I know you want to make the perfect game, but this is not the way. This is the way. Behold, the secret sauce of Dungeons and Dragons.
Okay, it's cheesy, but you get the fact that this guy really is passionate about Baldur's Gate 3. And we talked about this again in my last video, but Larian, they had to prove themselves to get to this opportunity. So a lot of people are acting like Larian's this massive studio. Yes, they have 400 developers. Yes, they're working on established franchise with D&D. But also, their road to get to this, it was long. It was strenuous. I mean, they had to prove themselves with Divinity Original Sin 2, and then finally Wizards of the Coast gave them this opportunity, and they have made the most of it. And right now, the reviews that have come out so far are looking extremely positive. We look to this PC Gamer review. Oh boy, it's good. Larian's latest is off to a great start and might be worth the 20-year wait. On Metacritic here, 94 out of 100. Only 4 reviews so far, but the reviews, what they say specifically is, it's eye-opening. Baldur's Gate 3 is a fine contender for one of the best video game RPGs ever made. I can't help but compare it to a great session of Dungeons and Dragons with your friends. It's something that, when done correctly, will stay with you long after you have finished a play session. The team at Larian are to be commended. Baldur's Gate 3 is nothing short of a masterpiece when it comes to RPGs. We got this covered saying an excellent follow-up to its decade-old predecessor. Baldur's Gate 3 sets a new gold standard for RPGs in the modern age. And certainly, we can also take a look at the user scores on Metacritic, because right now it has a 9.2 out of 10. That's just extremely good, and all of these reviews, lots of 10 out of 10s, the best RPG I have ever played, better than any game I've played in years, game of the year, great game so far, a spellbinding and enchanting entry into the widely acclaimed Baldur's Gate series. Like I said, just universal praise from everybody, not just critics, and on Steam it's the same story. The game already has 33,000 reviews and it has a 95% positive review score. That is remarkable. And when you look to the actual reviews, it just shows how happy people are with this. No DLC on Premiere, no microtransactions, no barricaded content on launch, no mandatory online connection, 10 out of 10. Another user saying 12 out of 10 with Baldur again, one of the best CRPGs in recent memory, if not ever. My first D&D experience, and I'm enjoying it a lot. However, I would prefer a little more guidance, as the mechanics are quite overwhelming at first, and most certainly because there's just so much here. But once you get into it, I think you really start to immerse yourself in this world. Perfect RPG, try it, bet you'll like it. Absolute masterpiece of a video game, hands down game of the year. Excellent, having a lot of fun. Finally, a game as good as Fallout New Vegas. I've waited over 20 years for this game, and it has been everything I have been looking for. So many secrets, and it goes on and on. You get the sense that so many people are just extremely happy with this. And just to show how massive of a launch this is, remember there's like 700,000 people playing it right now, but just on Steam. Sven Vink, the leader at Larian, saying probably should stay away from the IT team for a while, told them they should expect like 100,000 or so at max. Yeah, it's a lot bigger than that, but a lot of people are also talking about, you know, while Larian deserves this, it's also the fact that they've done everything right as a developer, and they really are leading by an example. We have this Forbes article saying Baldur's Gate 3's statement on microtransactions warms the heart. Because if you didn't know, again, Baldur's Gate 3 Larian leading by example in this regard, because on a frequently asked question page they say, "No, there are no in-game purchases in our game. We believe in providing a complete and immersive gaming experience without the need for additional purchases. Enjoy the game to its fullest without any additional cost or microtransactions." And again, when you look to all of these RPGs, especially maybe the one that's going to be coming next month from Starfield, there's probably going to be a creation club, there's probably going to be cosmetics you got to buy. It's nice to just have that complete package at the $70 or whatever it is that you pay to buy this game. And it just feel like in recent memory it's becoming more unheard of having games without microtransactions, without having an online requirement, and so on and so forth. But right now Baldur's Gate 3 isn't enjoying a massive launch. Just in its early access it sold over 2.5 million units, and I'm sure that they've made millions upon millions with all of the glowing reviews that we're seeing from everybody. But as one user said perfectly on Twitter, part of why Baldur's Gate 3 has done so well is that this is a genre that used to be popular but has long since been left fairly dry. Studios like BioWare moved on to doing live service games like Anthem, but the craving for good CRPGs still exists. Combine that with Larian's very any solution should be possible approach that feels like you're playing D&D, and you have not only a CRPG that meets an audience need, but one that spawns hilarious and easily shareable moments, a truly powerful combo. This is naturally pretty yeah duh, but it's actually quite hard to be in the right place at the right time with long, multi-year projects, so this mega success for an isometric turn-based hardcore CRPG is super cool, and I could not agree more with this sentiment. And again, Larian is a studio that they deserve all of this. It has been a long road for them, and I'm sure that right now everybody in their studio is extremely happy with everything that has happened here. A studio that is leading by creativity over profit, something that you don't see very often, especially with a massive property like this. But what's very interesting about Baldur's Gate 3 is that I definitely think that this sets a new standard for what players should expect from all of your favorite developers. I don't necessarily think that we need innovative graphics at every single title, but I definitely think that having an actual game that's described as an RPG should have those role-playing elements. We should be asking for more choices, more consequences, having a complete product that doesn't paywall certain content or have ridiculous requirements. I think Baldur's Gate 3 also doesn't have de novo, so that's a nice addition as well. So regardless, I'm very excited to continue to play this game, and it's just awesome to see that 2023 we have another massive great RPG that I myself am going to sink many more hours into and probably explore different builds just because of all of the different options that are available and all of the cool different features that are here. Something that, again, you don't see very often from this AAA games industry. An impressive feat, to say at the very least. Baldur's Gate 3 is one of the biggest releases of 2023. It most definitely sets a new standard for what players should expect with an RPG here in the year 2023, in which technology, budgets, size, scope, developer manpower, it has only increased, and I really don't see why any of your other favorite gaming studios couldn't do something like this. And I understand that the game's development was long, but I don't know, I look at the development timeline of all of these other games, and a lot of them are much longer than what Baldur's Gate 3 ended up being. And this game is just, it's really just endless amounts of content. Remember, 174 hours of cinematics. It's just ridiculous, and I really do hope that this pushes other developers to do better for players, because these numbers aren't happening just because people want to play Baldur's Gate 3. It's because finally there's a massive RPG for us to dive into. But how are you guys feeling about Baldur's Gate 3? Are you playing it right now? Are you planning to? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments section below. But thank you for watching. Make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy this video, or if you found any informative value, and consider subscribing for more videos like this, and I'll see you later.